Family and fellow soldiers, I'm the Professor, and this is the Moment of Truth. Utah Valley University is making a memorial to Charlie Kirk. Kind of. By kind of, what I mean is the university is kind of doing it, but in reality, it's actually a group of well-funded individuals on the board of the university. According to white media reports, the university is forming a committee to develop a memorial in Kirk's honor, quote-unquote. The UVU Memorial Committee will be co-chaired by Scott M. Smith, who's the chair of the UVU Board of Trustees and the co-founder of Qualtrics. It will also include students and political leaders along with other stakeholders, but one has to wonder which students are going to be involved in this memorial because this didn't come from the students. It came from people like Scott Smith, who said, "We are committed and dedicated to creating a memorial." We are committed and dedicated to creating a memorial? This isn't sounding like someone who's trying to find out if this is the right thing to do. This sounds more like a twisted ideologue who's trying to shove his agenda down the school's throats, and he doesn't care if Kirk's rampant racism fits the school's mission or the students who go there. And you're probably wondering, who is this Scott Smith character anyway? In addition to being the chair of UVU's Board of Trustees, he, along with his son Ryan, are the co-founders of Qualtrics, which is basically a software company. They were sold to a German company, SAP, a few years back for a reported $8 billion. White privilege at work. And what have these billionaires been doing with all that money? Trying to use it to mangle, mutilate, and change the face of society, that's what. Ryan Smith bought a majority stake in the Utah Jazz, by the way. There's that sports connection again. But these are the individuals who are driving this entire mad scheme to force a university to have a memorial to an open racist. So that ought to tell you everything you need to know about them. These are all a bunch of pathetic attempts to try to rewrite this white supremacist's entire life and to sanitize it. These are white billionaires, and they're used to a media environment that allows them to conjure magic. And if they just say something, or in this case of Charlie Kirk, don't say something, then that means nobody else will know any better. But it's not working out that way. Charlie Kirk isn't going to be a hero to anyone, not even the rich racists who are pretending to admire him. They could care less. That's why Donald Trump got so furious when Jimmy Kimmel pointed out that during that press conference, he didn't even spare a single word for Kirk. Instead, he preferred to talk about the big, beautiful ballroom that he was building at the White House. This is about trying to con the public into thinking that he was something other than a mouth-frothing anti-black racist, same way the dead-enders of the Confederacy did with their so-called memorials at the turn of the 20th century. The times may change, but these people don't. Charlie Kirk was not a student at UVU. He wasn't a faculty member either. He wasn't even the janitor. He was a racist right-wing nut troll who came there to push his grift on behalf of his equally psychopathically racist millionaire and billionaire sugar daddies. He was killed there. That's not deserving of a memorial because he has no real connection to the university. If some passerby or even student was the one who got killed at the university and not some racist right-wing mouthpiece, do you seriously believe that Scott Smith and his pals would be saying that that person deserved a memorial? If this was grassroots and not rich white astroturf, then the students at UVU would be the ones to champion this, but they didn't. So the billionaire white trustees were forced to do it instead. If people get killed in a movie theater or a shopping mall, does that mean that these places are obligated to create memorials there too? How many of the schools where numerous mass shootings have taken place have created memorials to those victims? What this is what the Daughters of the Confederacy and other hate groups did, putting up statues and monuments to the Confederacy at the turn of the 20th century. And keep in mind, it was white women who were the ones doing that. We're talking about women who didn't even have the right to vote, and yet they were ready to jump out of a window and spend what little money they had to literally fly the flag for white supremacy. Putting up a so-called memorial to Charlie Kirk is to put up a memorial to racism, and the people advocating for it know this. That's how white supremacy works. The racist team owners and league owners of the NFL and MLB and other sports leagues didn't say, "We hate niggers." Instead, they made it a point to do something that never happened before, giving tribute to a half-assed podcaster who had zero connection to sports whatsoever. This was the team owners trying to show the black players and the public what they stand for. That's how people with money do their dirt. They don't get their own hands dirty. They hire other people to sling the slime for them. UVU is a university, and the creeps demanding that they put up some sort of memorial to a racist who had nothing but contempt for college students is sickening. To the white right, this is about trying to force some kind of stamp of ownership onto an institution. Something like this ought to be put up to a vote by the student body themselves, because they're the ones whose names are going to be associated with it. But the white right already knows how a vote like that would go, the exact same way they've lost so many ballot initiatives in the states. Charlie Kirk didn't die because he was standing up for learning. He didn't get killed trying to integrate the schools or to expand access to education. He was a paid right-wing racist troll who billionaires used as the front man to push their anti-black rhetoric. That's it. Full stop. He died because he spent his life fighting for unrestricted gun access and fighting for unrestricted white privilege, and both of those twin poisons came back to haunt him at the exact same moment. He was not some beloved figure by the students or even the faculty there. He was a sock puppet for oligarchs, sending him around to do his little asinine sideshow on college campuses. Now, the billionaire sugar daddies who bankrolled his little operation, they may mourn him. But the students at UVU, clearly, they're not feeling any of this. Charlie Kirk doesn't belong in the company of academics and intellectuals. He dropped out of a mediocre community college, and he spent more time trolling college kids than he did in college. He belongs in the same company as a David Duke. But this poison, of course, has metastasized. The champions of free speech who claim that words never killed anyone and that everybody, at least black people, need to stop being snowflakes about things that people say and that everything must be sayable and that if you don't like what someone says, well, if you just pretend as if racism doesn't exist, you won't notice it. These are the same people who are showing their typical hypocrisy now. In Britain, George Abercrombie, who is the president of Oxford Union, made remarks that the white right predictably twisted to try to mean that he was celebrating Charlie Kirk's death, which is the lie du jour that they've been using for the last month or so as they try to gin up phony campaign to attack people who have done nothing wrong. And as a result, this guy's become the target of threats and a pressure campaign. Now, he made the mistake of giving an apology, which he shouldn't have. His postings online didn't kill Charlie Kirk. He has nothing to apologize for. What he was trying to do is to placate the white racist over there, and he's finding out that they don't care. These are the same people, the exact same people who lecture the black community constantly that everyone's just too sensitive. A talking point that they only bring out when one of them has openly celebrated the murder of a black person. Charlie Kirk was killed by a white shooter, not by a black student union president. As Charlie Kirk himself said, there's no hate speech. There's ugly speech, gross speech, evil speech, but all of it protected by the First Amendment. Now, Britain is obviously not the U.S., so they don't have the First Amendment there, but they like to promote themselves as bastions of free speech regardless. That's certainly what all those little white supremacists over there like to say whenever they're making racist remarks about black people. But they're not getting upset because of remarks that were made about a Brit. Isn't that interesting? Kirk got killed in the U.S. at a U.S.-based university. He didn't get killed at Oxford. No one at Oxford had anything to do with it. So why are they just getting so butthurt about the death of an American? Just like with UVU, Kirk wasn't a student at Oxford. He wasn't faculty there either. All he did was bring his grift sideshow to their campus, and he got spanked by the students, by the way. But that was the only contact that he had with Oxford. So why are there any Brits over there who even care what anyone thinks about him? Well, we could also ask why a white Brit like Douglas Murray was up in arms about reparations, even though he's British and not one penny of reparations would come from his pockets. But then again, as I've told you, Douglas Murray is an employee for the anti-black think tank, the Manhattan Institute, who also has produced other racist trash like Charles Murray, who wrote the infamous hate tract, The Bell Curve. Another Manhattan Institute employee is Heather McDonald, who wrote her little book, The War on Cops. She was the one who tried to invent that stat saying that more blacks kill cops than cops kill black people. The problem with that talking point is the math, if it could be called that she tried to use to manufacture her talking point was so convoluted and such a tongue twister that even the people who tried to repeat it couldn't actually do it because it was such word salad. And of course, more recently, the Manhattan Institute employee Chris Rufo has been used to push racial hysteria about critical race theory, which only worked in a couple of red states and got crushed in the courts. But it just goes to show this is what the Manhattan Institute is. For 40 years, they've been a non-stop hate engine of anti-black lies and propaganda. And this is who Douglas Murray works for. He's British, and reparations wouldn't apply to him at all, but he wanted to make it clear he didn't like even the talk about it. He didn't approve of it because he didn't like it. And that's the exact same well that these people over at Oxford are drawing from. And these are the exact same people on both sides of the Atlantic who will tell you and me that black people are just too sensitive about what people say. Oh, there's ugly speech, there's vile speech, but there is no hate speech. Okay, somebody does not say I hate Charlie Kirk. What they said were words that people tried to twist and misconstrue into he's celebrating that someone died. He wasn't the one who actually killed the person. This is deserving of basically objection, but not punishment. We're using the rules of the white right here. But that's not what they're saying. What they're saying is, no, we want people to be punished. Well, great. Then they should also agree that the next time that one of their pals says something that people don't like, their head should be chopped off too, right? Of course not. But this is how the psychopathic hypocrisy of white supremacy has always operated. Double standards, triple standards, which makes it possible for them to have no standards. To wit, I'm white and I say so. They don't have to be consistent. White supremacy is not about consistency. It's about situational ethics and moral relativism. They say one thing on Monday, then something else different on Tuesday, something else totally different on Wednesday, and then on Thursday go right back to what they were saying Monday, as if they were saying it the entire time. The only thing that they're actually consistent about is their desire to hold on to power. If these people want to give Charlie Kirk a proper and fitting monument, they can either show a Klansman hopelessly trying to read a book. That would fit considering that Kirk himself was a college dropout. Though I think a far better memorial to him would be absolutely nothing at all, which is exactly what he contributed to the university, and to public discourse, and to the country. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors. One Good Ace, Joshua Fitzpatrick, Lavtravia Lawson, Antonio Daniels, and Chris Pruitt. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.